As a Christian, a Catholic, or specifically as a priest, what was it like to go to the upper room, the Cenacle, and reflect on Jesus at the Last Supper? I'm cheating a little bit. I just wrote about this for the Catholic transcript. But I wanted to ask you guys. It's just the reason I put it in here, because it really is this profound thing. It's this interesting place, as you know. Like, it's one of the least specific or the least certain places. It's kind of, you go into this upper room, it's kind of like, well, this was an upper room, and it was in a building, and who knows, maybe it was the right spot, you know? But even to reflect upon, okay, even the maybe of that, and be like, okay, this incredible thing, the Eucharist, the priesthood, everything started in one of these upper rooms. And he was having this conversation, having this Passover meal, doing this incredible thing that now, in our profound way, we get to experience as priests, as Catholics. And it is offering so much meaning to our lives. And to even be in a place like that has really, you could say, defined my life and who I am and what I do, and how I kind of orient myself when we talk about the Eucharist as the source and summit, when we talk about the fact that this guides us in this incredibly profound way, to be there and to get to witness that spot, or one that's pretty close, is just so wonderful, and really was an incredible experience to just take a breath in and be like, wow, yeah, this means something for sure.
Right, this is where the miracle of the Eucharist first took place. For everybody who goes to the Holy Land has their favorite places, and I'm sure another question will come up as to what was your favorite place, perhaps, or whatever. But your place had less meaning. They're all very meaningful. But for me, the upper room was probably on the lower end of the exciting places for one of the reasons you just said it. We don't know the exact spot. It's a room with a lot of echo. There's a lot of activity going on. It's so it was beautiful to be there. I understand Pope St. John Paul II celebrated Mass there, if I'm not mistaken, a number of years ago. And but right near there's also a Franciscan friary, and we celebrated Mass there. And that was actually, wherever it was, Matt, Father Matt, in that same area, it was just a beautiful experience to be there, where the Eucharist became, the body and blood of Christ became real in the Eucharist, and obviously continues to this day, giving life to all of us.
It's an interesting thing to ponder, because there's some places in the Holy Land that, as Father Sullivan mentioned, that stand out, and I think maybe a way to think about it is places with a lot of specificity, and some places that you kind of remember in a more general way. And I wonder if part of what Father Sullivan's talking about, and my experience as well, is like places like Golgotha or the Sea of Galilee or Capernaum, these places which stand out in the Gospels as being so remarkably specific that encountering them engages your mind in a certain way. And then one of the wonders of the Eucharist, one of the wonders of the Mass is what happened in the upper room is present in every single one of our parishes, every single one of our churches. And that, in a certain sense, whenever you walk into your church, you're walking into the upper room. And so, in a certain sense, it's less specific because it's diffused into the whole world. Whereas
that's a great point.
Wherever we encounter Christ, we're encountering that place. And maybe in a certain sense, maybe that's why it doesn't stand out to me as being like, this was the place. But it's like, I'm walking up to that place every single day. And to see how they relate to each other is something really important to consider. And I've not thought about it in that way, so I think that really
is interesting, because it's almost the point, right? The fact that, well, this room wasn't the important part; it was what happened, and when we experienced that, just as you explained it.
This is kind of a silly thing, and it might be cut from the final. But I think of on the way in, I remember it was a moment of my at least the way I remember it, is the time of day and just how serene it felt making our way into that place where the upper room was. The sunlight on the building, the wind through the palm tree, but also there were a couple of cats in the area, and I thought of the timelessness of that. The timelessness of creation. It's always moving, but as they made their way, what time of day was it? Was the sun may have been shining, the wind in the trees, and maybe a couple of cats just totally oblivious doing their thing. Anyway, that's at
the same moment, one of the greatest events of all time
exactly
happening right there.
Exactly.